the dark past of Rwanda is not so far behind. So how are they able to move very quickly and become such a nation with strong spirit of nationalism if you ever travel to Rwanda? It's simple. It's storytelling. It's narrative control through education, through media, through memorial centers, through national campaigns that are repeated and reinforced over again. That exactly is intentional nation building. The genocide was not erased. It was confronted, studied, documented by them, and transformed into a lesson about unity. A nation is not held together by borders alone. It is held together by the stories that people believe about themselves, their country, and their history. These stories told repeatedly is what makes up who they are, is what forms their national identity. My name is Mary Jane, and I welcome you to Inside Vertex, where we take you behind the media scenes to show you exactly what is influencing and shaping your thoughts, your lifestyle. Now, follow today's story rather carefully. We know about the xenophobic protests in South Africa that were led by citizen groups such as Operation Dudula and March and March that took place across major cities in South Africa, including Johannesburg, Pretoria, and Durban. It started around April 23rd and continued with larger coordinated rallies spanning April 27th to April 29th. Now, these protests led to deaths, the looting of foreign-owned businesses, and widespread intimidation, of which prompted the first batch of about 300 Ghanaian citizens to be evacuated from Johannesburg. They arrived in Accra on the 27th of May, 2026. Since then, a total of about 1,000 of them have been evacuated from South Africa. Now that's the story. The story seems like it's a simple story of evacuation of desperate citizens who are in trouble. But that's not it. What is fascinating isn't simply the evacuation. It is how it was done. It is how it is communicated. It is Ghana's swift and organized response as a projection of diplomatic soft power. It is storytelling through media and narrative control to shape the national identity, nationhood, and spirit of nationalism amongst Ghanaians. Now, the Ghanaian government didn't just bring the citizens quietly home. It has made sure that the entire nation and the world at large saw the process and have been a part of it. That's how I know about it. Senior government officials were present in South Africa as well as when they got back home to Accra. The Foreign Affairs Minister personally received the returnees. They had mental health officials on ground present. There was transportation assistance announced that would be given for free to their various destinations, and reintegration support was announced and is being televised. The media was there. Statements released across platforms continuously. We've watched the evacuation live. We have followed the stories. In fact, in Ghana, in South Africa, I beg your pardon, Ghanaians were told not to make comments at the airport and should redirect interviewers to government officials. And when they did and the government officials spoke, it was heartfelt. It was saying, Ghana is waiting to receive you. Ghana is home. Come home. There is space for you at home.
You are not going to arrive in Ghana as if you are orphans. You arrive to a hero's welcome. Hero's welcome.
This is narrative control. A Ghanaian watching isn't just watching evacuation. They're hearing a message. They're seeing this message saying, hey, Ghanaians, we see you. We value you. No matter where you are in the world, Ghana has got your back. This exactly is how nationhood is built. It's built repeatedly. It's built through storytelling, through narrative control. And Ghana is seeming to understand this. By acting immediately to protect its citizens and taking the issue directly to African Union, Ghana has demonstrated a proactive commitment to the welfare of its diaspora. This is foreign affairs. This is international politics. This sort of decisive leadership has solidified its reputation in the international community as a safe, responsible state that cares about its citizens. What it is doing is a show of soft power. And here are the even more fascinating fallout from the South Africa evacuation story. Recently, There were home and business demolitions caused by some flooding and some projects in Abidjan in Cote d'Ivoire, which led to the displacement of thousands of people. We're talking about businesses and people displaced. Hundreds of Ghanaians were part of them. And we know this because the Ghanaians immediately came out to say that they wanted to return home. They specifically requested repatriation. Why and how do I know this? It is because they were already seeing how the previous returnees were treated. The story had traveled. Everyone watched it. The media did its work. Trust has been created. This is soft power, not military might, not military power, not economic power, but narrative power through intentional, purposeful storytelling that should be documented in history books, compulsorily taught. It should just be embedded in the media. It's not dictatorship. This is how the Western world branded itself. It's the same with Australia. This is how countries come from dark past and into a glorious history. It's ownership in storytelling. And if you follow this story very carefully, you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm speaking about the ability to shape how citizens feel about their nations and how others perceive it. And this is where the Rwandan case becomes another interesting case study. Rwanda arguably suffered one of the most worst genocides in modern history. Their country could have remained trapped in that kind of story, that dark past forever. Instead, the government deliberately chose to rewrite a new chapter. And today, the average Rwandan will tell you something remarkable, such as, we are one people and nothing can divide us again. And that's a rarity to say in the parts of Africa that I come from, which is Nigeria. The dark past of Rwanda is not so far behind. This is 1994 that it happened. So how are they able to move very quickly and become such a nation with a strong nationhood and a strong spirit of nationalism? If you ever travel to Rwanda, it's simple. It's storytelling. It's narrative control through education, through media, through memorial centers, through national campaigns that are repeated and reinforced over again. That exactly is intentional nation building. The genocide was not erased, it was confronted, studied, documented by them, and transformed into a lesson about unity. That's narrative control, not propaganda, but narrative control. This has got to do with acknowledging the truth and then deciding what lessons the society should learn from it and how the way forward should be charted. It's not dictatorship, it's not autocratic. It's what fuels nationalism, it's what creates the spirit of nationhood in every country. They are fueled by their past and their struggles, and then they turn that pain into purpose. Similarly, Nigeria is a nation filled with powerful stories of colonialism, the Civil War, military rule, ethnic tensions, religious tensions. Yet, many of these stories are never properly processed and harnessed. They are not collectively owned. In fact, some generations were never taught about this because an administration of government had them wipe out history from the school curriculum. That deserves a moment of silence. Because where there's no history, there's no identity. And where there's no identity, crisis will prevail. Because wounds will survive generations and emotions will keep filling the vacuum with subjective interpretations of whatever happened in the past due to present narrative control that will point everyone out to lessons and create a shared bond. And this is exactly how fragmentation survives, with young people bearing anger from events that they never personally experienced. That's why people are still chanting Biafra. Because stories don't just disappear. And if a nation refuses to own them and tell them, someone else eventually will. Now, this brings us back to media power. Ghana is not the only African country that has evacuated and reintegrated its citizens. In fact, Nigeria has done this repeatedly over the years. We're talking of repatriation from Libya, from Syria, through partnerships with international organization for migration. Thousands of Nigerians stranded in Libya and other countries have been assisted to return home, receive support, and get reintegrated into the society. And I know this personally. Years ago, I participated in a training program for some returnees. It was in entertainment. I was called to come teach them a course in some branch of entertainment. It was part of the reintegration process. Through reintegration initiatives, people were being taught skills, exposed to opportunities, and supported started to restart their lives. The real work was happening. Real people were helped. And guess what? Most Nigerians don't know this. Most recently, the first batch of over 250 evacuees from South Africa arrived Lagos Airport on June 11th. It didn't evoke emotions. The story never traveled as it should. At best, it appeared as press releases, as they do on national news, traditional news platforms, by traditional television stations, a brief mention on television, a newspaper article, as though that's where the populace are these days, and then it disappears. The average Gen Z scrolling through Instagram, through TikTok, through YouTube or X never saw these stories, never connected with it because it was never repeated. So they've never really felt it. And this is where narratives are very important, where you take such a story and tell it over and again. There are a few videos of government representatives down there in South Africa trying to bring Nigerians back home, right there on the plane, addressing them. The return is feeling happy, right there at the airport, receiving them. But these stories have not traveled as far and as wide as they should. People don't judge governments only by what they do. They judge governments by what they see, by what they hear repeatedly, and by what they connect emotionally with. And Ghana is seeming to understand that. Rwanda obviously understood it. They turned their stories into national nationhood, nationalism, the spirit of nationalism, fueled by a national identity. Many Nigerians have grown up feeling disconnected from their country because they rarely see examples of competence, of care, of protection, or of national pride that's amplified consistently enough to shape public consciousness and give them a sense of nationhood. We're not talking about an emotional connection to being proudly Niger, like we'd like to say, or a cultural connection that would say, oh, I'm proudly Yoruba, I'm an Edo girl, I'm a Bini girl, I'm an Igbo. No. That's even fragmentation. I'm saying what it truly means to be Nigerian and to have a Nigerian dream. Because when people don't feel connected to a national identity, they begin to identify primarily with tribe, with religion, with their ethnicity, just personal survival. The result is a country filled with talented people, but fragmented because they are lacking a shared national story. Nationhood is not just built through roads and policies and infrastructure, or even a bunch of talented people in a space. No, it is built through intentional stories and narratives that a group of people think that something matters, something bigger than themselves matters, and that's what they're working towards, not just in their generation, but transgenerationally. And that's what soft power ultimately is. Soft power is the ability of a nation to inspire confidence in its citizens and command respect from the outside world, not just through what it does, but how effectively it tells the story of what it's doing strategically through media, through decision making. And because, listen, we cannot wait for the government to realize this and to wake up. Media still is one of the most powerful tools to do this. And this means that you have the power. You have the power to facilitate your own nation building through your media content, to use your entertainment to teach citizens what matter, what values should be celebrated, to stop celebrating mediocrity and laughing when someone comes to say they're raising money for cancer through dubious means. Every strong nation understands this. Americans won't run down America. Neither would the Chinese run down China. Neither would Ghana. They will not even do it. And this is self-respect, national respect. and will give us soft power amongst nations. My name is Mary Jane, and I'll be seeing you on the next episode of Inside Vertex. Stay tuned. Follow today's